What's up, G Show Land, and welcome to another episode of the G Show Podcast. I am G1, and this is the Geek Out. That's a lot of G's in this opening. But that's all right. You know, the G stands for geek, and that's what we here doing. We are geeking out. Who are we? It's just me, G1. That's it. I'm flying solo today. And the reason why I'm flying solo today is because my co-hosts, my cohorts, have yet to see the things I will be talking about today. So I gotta fly solo. It just has to happen that way. And it's all right. I can do it. And I'm gonna try to keep this thing at a half hour or under, which is shocking because people tell me I talk a lot. But in order for me to do that, let me get right into it. This is the Geek Out. And I got 3 topics I want to talk about today. I'm going to try to keep them at 10 minutes a pop. And the first topic I want to talk about, something I already talked about a couple of times on the previous podcast, definitely previous podcast. But I want to talk about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse because it deserves the amount of time that it gets. Because people out there in G-Show land, this movie is fantastic. I'm not even making it up. I'm not even saying that. This is not me. I'm telling you the God's honest truth. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is one of the best movies I've ever seen. Period. And I know I said this on the last podcast with Brother Chase, G73, aka Megsy. This is possibly the greatest sequel ever made. Serious. It really is. It follows suit with Empire Strikes Back, which in my opinion, and a lot of people's opinion, let me rephrase that, a lot of geeks' opinion, like people who love the genre will say Empire Strikes Back is possibly the greatest sequel ever made. Now, there's a bunch of them. You got Empire Strikes Back. You got Lord of the Rings, Two Towers. You've got, holy macaroni, it was just there and it just left. Lord of the Rings, Star Wars. Oh my God. Terminator 2. How could I forget Terminator 2? Oh, my God. Avengers. It's not really a sequel. It's not the second part, but I still throw it in there. But Avengers Infinity War. I love that movie so much. Good Lord, have mercy. It was there. It was the tip of my tongue. Oh, I like Jurassic Park too. Jurassic World. But yeah. What I'm trying to say is that Spider-Man Across the Evil Dead 2, for most people, not for me, but for most people. But Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is the perfect example of how to do a sequel right. You have your characters established. You set them up in a new dilemma. Whether it's in instance of Spider-Man, him trying to, and I don't mean it like this, but the way it sounds, come out to his parents that he's Spider-Man. He wants to let the people he loves the most know he's Spider-Man and he's all right. And the struggle with that was great in the movie. So you have that aspect, but then you also have you do something good, it's going to lead to something wrong in the multiverse, and it works. And again, just like Empire Strikes Back, for me, it's like you see the good guys in the beginning, there's a little bit of perilous things. Then you think, oh, we're going to come out great at the end. But no, we all lose at the end. The good guys lose at the end. The bad guys win. And Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, not that the bad guys win per se, but it's left on such a cliffhanger that you're like, yo, what the Fraggle Rock is going on here? And it was perfect. Now, the story The story was top notch. And I might get into a little bit of spoilers here, but at this point in time, the movie's been out this is the second weekend that it's out. It's the second week it's out. So hopefully most of y'all have seen it already. If not, I'm sorry, but there's spoilers coming up. But in this movie, it's, again, it's about Miles trying to figure out how to explain to his parents, hey, I'm Spider-Man. How to just be him and not have to worry about things. And I really, really love that. But what makes this movie dope is his adventure through the multiverse, obviously, because it's the Spider-Verse. The Spider-Verse, as to say. And there's a lot of cameos. There's a lot of things. Like, of course, obviously, you see it in the trailers. You see all these Spider-Men. But what they don't show you is like the individual things that is pretty freaking cool. The little nods and homages and the tips of the hats to old school fans of Spider-Man. For instance, I'll give you an instance. When he's in the Spider-Verse and he's at this facility, they're showcasing the video games Spider-Mans. But like the old school, and it was like the villains, and I think it might have been Spider-Man from Atari. And I was like, oh shit, but I was so focused on that, I completely missed the Sony PS4 Spider-Man. Like, I completely missed that Spider-Man, and he was there and he even said something. And it would just went right by me. One of the cameos I thought was dope, and the theater thought was dope too. They had Donald Glover pop up in real life, caught up in a little jail cell that is in the Spider-Verse, and he was wearing a Prowler costume, and it was dope. And he has a little back and forth with Spider-Punk, and Spider-Punk is like, yeah, I caught him, and Donald Glover was like, yeah, I tripped, or I slipped. For those who know, Donald Glover is in the first Spider-Man movie with Tom Holland. Far From Home. Nope, Homecoming. He's in it. And he even says, my nephew's a big fan, blah, 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 blah. And that's like, oh, he's talking about Miles. That was dope. It was great, especially within the story. Another cameo that was cool was when the villain, The Spot, realizes that he has the power to control the multiverse, and he's going across the multiverse, or the Spider-Verse, and he pops up in the Venom movie. But you don't see Eddie Brock, you don't see Venom, you see the little lady who owns the store downstairs from Eddie's apartment. And he's like baffled that she's not freaking out that some dude just popped his head out of a hole in midair. And I thought that was great. The theater thought it was, everybody laughed. It was great. It was a good time. But the cameo stuff aside, the real meat and potatoes really is the cast, the story, the idea of what Miles means to the Spider-Verse. And they go into it, and I did not see it coming what they did. I was like, holy smokes. They took it to another place, and it was gut-wrenching. And I think this is why I love this movie so much, because you're sitting there and they are just degrading this character, and not in a way where it's like you're a phony Spider-Man, but in a way it's like you're kind of a mistake. And it is like, it's powerful, man. Everybody brings their A game in this movie when it comes to the voice acting. Everybody. And yeah, just going through Miles' struggle with that, because he wants to join the Spider-Verse. He was like, when he sees Gwen, he's longing to see Gwen again. And when she finally pops up, she's not supposed to be there. She kind of uses him a bit. Not really. But she uses her being there as an excuse to see him, and he's very happy. Then he follows her. All this craziness goes. And she tells him, yeah, I'm a part of this like super secret spider society. And he wants to be down. Like, it's like, holy crap, that's crazy. And then, he goes with her. He sneaks in. Now he's in the Spider-Verse. They go to another canon point, they call it. And it's just dope. I mean, freaking the Spider-Man. I don't remember the Earth numbers. But the Hindu Spider-Man, that dude, that dude, I loved it. But Miles changes something that's supposed to happen there that's going to mess up the rest of the story. And what I really liked is that the story's not over. This is just the beginning. I mean, not the beginning, the middle of a trilogy. And again, this is why I say this is like the best sequel ever, or one of the best sequel ever, because it uses that Empire Strikes Back. The heroes don't win. The villains don't win, but the heroes don't win. The heroes are in a predicament. It's a cliffhanger. It's perfect. It's awesome. I love it. And again, like the whole thing with Miles, you know, them explain, not even them, but Spider-Man 2099 explaining to him, Miguel O'Hara explaining to Miles Morales, yo, you're not supposed to be here. Why not, says Miles? Because you're a mistake. You're not even supposed to be Spider-Man. And they go into it, and man, I mean, it's animated, but you can feel it. You can see it. My hat is tipped. I take my hat off and I throw it across the theater. Sony crushed it. Whoever was animating this movie crushed it. They got all the emotion you can get from a cartoon. They nailed it. I loved it. And again, this is coming from someone who really liked the first movie, but also really didn't like it because I thought there could be so much more because it was animated. This movie delivered on every freaking aspect, and I loved it. And then I know a lot of people didn't know that it was a trilogy. I'll be honest, I completely forgot it was going to be a trilogy. So as I'm in the theater, I'm like, this movie's been going on for a minute, and I'm enjoying the ride. But how are they going to wrap this up? Because last I checked, this wasn't a 3-hour movie. And then it was like to be continued. And I was like, that's right. I forgot. My bad. But I loved it. I loved it. And I won't go and spoil the ending. All I'm saying, it was dope. I will say this, though. I will spoil this. It's not really a spoiler. They showed 1 million Spider-Men. And I keep saying and alluding to, they didn't show the Spider-Man I wanted. The Spider-Man I wanted was Japanese Spider-Man. I wanted the Toei Spider-Man from the 70s. That's what I wanted. With Leopold and the giant robot Spider-Man. You know, the emissary from hell. I wanted that guy. And he wasn't there. He wasn't there. But I ain't mad because the movie was fantastic on its own merits. And there's no way that the end of the third movie ain't going to be some grandiose battle sequence. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to get him there. I can wait another year. I can wait another year. So honestly, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, it really is one of the best sequels I've ever seen. It deserves to be up there in the conversation. It sits at the table of the greatest sequels of all time. It really does. And I know I keep saying Avengers Infinity War, and technically it's not the standard sequel. While I mean sequel, I mean the second part. But it is a sequel in its own right because it's not the last movie of the franchise. And I love that movie because it does have that Empire Strikes Back feel where the good guys lose. This has it, and this is a legit sequel. So, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Woof. What a movie. What a movie. But you know what else was a good movie? I gotta be honest, people. Transformers: Rise of the Beasts. That came out this week. That came out today, as a matter of fact, as I record this. June 9th, Friday. I've seen it twice already. I seen the Thursday show. Me and my brother, my nephew. Me and my brother, die-hard Generation 1 fans. We watched Transformers, the movie 1986, so many times. It's ridiculous how many times we've seen that movie. We could recite it back and forth and back. We know all the songs, all the lyrics, music cues, everything. We still get upset when we see some of our favorite Transformers die. We're nuts. We love that movie. My nephew, he's the next generation of that shit. He just ain't as hardcore as we are, his uncle and his father. So I go see Transformers Rise of the Beast yesterday with them. And I'm telling y'all right now, as an old school G1 fan, this is seriously the best Transmovers, you hear me? The best Transformers movie since 1986. All that Michael Bay stuff, you could boof it. boof it, throw it out the window. See, the problem is what Michael Bay did was, and I get it. I'm here to make money, but he didn't know Transformers. He wasn't down with the law. He wasn't a geek like I was a geek, like my brother was a geek, like my peoples. My people's Joey, Steve, like we geeks when it comes to this shit. G2 geeks when it comes to this shit, right? A plethora of other people. Gam Z1 geeks when it comes to this shit. We love the Transformers lore. Michael Bay was like, yeah, nah, dead that. I need to make money. I'm here to make money. This is what we're going to do. And he made his movie. And you know what? It made money, so he made a sequel. And you know what? That made money, so he made another sequel. And he made what? We made the first one, the second one, the third one, the fourth one. He made 5 sequels. He made 4 sequels. He made 5 movies. And they made money. And I sat there and I'm like, the first one was okay. It wasn't what I wanted for a Transformers movie, but I understood what they were doing. Introducing it to a brand new audience with freaking, in live action. So they went a different route. This is what your Autobots look like, This is what they sound like. Oh, yeah, by the way, because it's a cartoon originally, we're going to make it goofy as shit. We're going to give it bad jokes and potty humor. And it's terrible. For the purists like myself and the people I just named off, we hated it. It's terrible. Now, I do like that first Transformers movie. I can't lie for what it was. But anything after that, no, it all sucked. I recently rewatched those movies. 2 suck. Rise of the Fallen, Revenge of the Fallen. Sucks. Terrible fucking movie. Sucks. The third movie, Dark of the Moon. I like some of the concepts. I can't lie. I did like some of the concepts. I love the end of that movie. The Decepticons are decimating Chicago. They are showing people get obliterated like it was War of the Worlds. Because that's what it was. And it was dope. And I loved it. I loved that they had Leonard Nimoy back. Even though he wasn't playing Galvatron, but he was playing, it wasn't Alpha Trion. I forgot what he called it. See, that's how bad it was. I hated it. Might have been Alpha Trion. Whoever he was. But, at the same time, it was just still the same old potty humor. The same, I like Shia LaBeouf a lot, but it was still Shia LaBeouf doing the same old thing. He's kicking a car really hard. It's stupid. It's goofy. It's dumb. It's not what Transformers is. It's not. Then they do the next one, Age of Extinction. And oh, shit. Look, it's the Dinobots. It's Grimlock. Oh, for what? It was they were there for 2 minutes. The movie was terrible, and I thought that was going to be great. They're reformatting Megatron into Galvatron. This is great. Megatron is playing them. This is great. I like the concepts. The execution, not there. Although I will say, upon my second viewing of that movie, I dug it. I can't lie. I did dig it. Still sucks, but I dug it. And then the last one, after Age of the Last Night or whatever it was called, terrible. There was no redeeming qualities about it. They completely retconned everything mid-fucking story. Megatron was just Megatron. Nothing about Galvatron. It was dumb. I was like, what the fuck is this? I hated it. And then they tried to bring Unicron in at the end and set something up. It was terrible. Then it went on hiatus. And then came Bumblebee, which wasn't directed by Michael Bay. And the first fucking 8 minutes of that movie is the Generation 1 Transformers on Cybertron fighting the Decepticons trying to get away. And it was them. It was everything we were led to believe could not be seen on film in live action. And they did it. There was Wheeljack. There was Ironhide. Real Ironhide. There was Ratchet. Real Ratchet. And I'm not knocking the Bay form as well. But there they were. There was, not Bumblebee, but Wheeljack was there. RC, we saw Shockwave, Soundwave, the Seekers. They were there. It was nuts. Because there they were. The Generation 1 versions of our character, Optimus Prime. He even did the Transformers 1986 movie thing where he's driving, busts up, pulls the gun out, starts blasting Decepticons. It was great. I loved it. And then they went to Earth, and Bumblebee turned out to... Bumblebee was a good movie. I enjoyed Bumblebee. I thoroughly enjoyed Bumblebee. But it was, it was girl meets dog, or girl gets car, like boy meets dog type of story. I ain't mad at it. It was the first time I seen John Cena in a movie, who went on to be Peacemaker and have a great career with Peacemaker, and hopefully a long career with whatever James Gunn's doing with the DC Universe going forward. But yeah, Bumblebee was great. It was fun. But what got us G1 fans, well, me specifically, the most was the first, 5 to 8 minutes. And then that was it. And then it was silent. Silent. It went silent. And then rumbling started going on. Are they going to make a new movie? And then more rumblings. Yeah, they are. And the freaking Maximals are going to be in it. Optimus Primal and Cheetor and Rhinox. I said, shut up. Rat Trap. Air Racer. Stop it. Silverbolt. Shut your fucking mouth. Don't you dare do that to me. It's impossible. I can't say. And here we are. And I'm going to talk about it. And I'm not going to spoil it. I love this movie. I loved it. I seen it twice. Like I said right at the beginning, I seen it twice already. All right? It's been out for 2 days. It's been out one day. Today's its initial release. But the previews yesterday. I saw it yesterday in the Dolby Theater. And then today I took my wife to see it. We went to a regular theater. And I loved it both times. And this... Look. Is it as good as Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse? No. It's not. But... for a Transformer fan, a G1 fan, this movie is exactly what was needed. It is the shot in the arm. And I know a lot of people are turned off because of the Bayformers and the corny ass jokes and the shitty jokes. I'm here to assure you, those jokes aren't in this movie. You might find these jokes corny, but these jokes aren't stupid. They're not stupid jokes. That's what pisses me off. It's like when we talk about Godzilla King of the Monsters and we say they went Bayformers with it. The jokes were stupid. They weren't corny. They were stupid. For a Godzilla fan, that's blasphemous what they did in that movie. And then you see Godzilla vs. Kong and they try not to do stupid jokes. There's jokes in there and they may not land and they may be corny, but they're not stupid. They're respectful. They're tasteful at least. This is what that is. And I'm not saying that the jokes are tasteful. They are. But they're not offensive. They're not offensive to anyone. And that's fun. They're just jokes. It's comedy. And whether you like it or not, whether you think they're funny or not, it's comedy. And it's inoffensive comedy. And honestly, that's where Michael Bay failed in a lot of aspects. Doing stupid shit where it was like offensive to the old school purists. Like myself. And I know I might come off sound like a fucking old fuddy-duddy. That's fine. But the fact of the matter is, it's also the truth. It's terrible. This movie wasn't like that. Netflix did a trilogy, the War for Cybertron trilogy. And in the last one, they did Kingdom, which had the Autobots meeting the Maximals and the Decepticons meeting the Predacons. This movie did that show justice. This movie did that show the way it should have been done. Because I was watching some of that show earlier this morning after I seen the movie yesterday. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, yeah, I like some of the concepts, but the voice acting is terrible. Like, what are we doing here? Why are we doing this? It was just like, oh my God. But this movie gets it. People, for crying out loud, Unicron is on the screen in live action. And Unicron is, he's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's Unicron. And he doesn't transform, spoilers, or not. But the fact that you get to see Unicron, the giant planet-eating robot, eating a planet at the beginning of the movie was fantastic. I loved it. I'm sorry, but I did. I loved it. And I can't stress it enough. Also, being that this movie was set in 1994, the soundtrack for me was absolutely top-notch. Also, the fact that it was set in 1994 in Brooklyn, where I'm from, even better. Now, that's not to say, I love the soundtrack, but it's funny because pretty much every song with the exception of maybe 3 or 4. I listen to on a daily basis. I have it. They're in my playlist. It's on a rotation constantly. So it's not like it was dope to hear it in the theaters and see it in the movie with the scenes. So I was like, oh, that's dope. Especially this one scene towards the end. And y'all know it right off the bat. Listen. I mean, you see it in the trailers. I'm not going to tell you the story, but you see it in the trailers when Bumblebee is, flying in the air, shooting at these little spears. When that scene happens, it was that one I had to tip my hat to Michael Bay for. Without, for taking Bumblebee's voice box away and making him talk through the radio. That right there, that sequence in Transformers Rise of the Beast, that shit was top notch. I loved it. The theater yesterday erupted when that happened. I was like, yo, it was nuts. I erupted today when that happened, but there was like maybe 12 to 13 people in a 200-seat theater, which scares me because it's opening day. But I do live in Vegas now. I was watching it at a casino, so that might be a thing. Yesterday I saw it in a legit movie theater that wasn't inside of a casino, and the theater was mobbed. And when we left, the theater was mobbed. The concession stands, mobbed. People were everywhere. So, granted, some could have been seeing Spider-Man still, but I want to put my money on them seeing Transformers. I digress. This movie was fantastic. It hit all the right notes. It was like watching an episode of the original cartoon in live action. Now, a lot of people might not like that. I personally do. And I think that's what this was. It was necessary. This movie was necessary. And also, without spoiling anything, the world building that's happening, especially at the end of this movie. I mean, the world building with just the Maximals and the Autobots. Say no more. But what Hasbro and Paramount want to do, and it's obviously evident in this movie because they obviously show it in this movie. Yes, this is going to be something special. I just hope that it makes enough money where they say, okay, let's give it a sequel. Let's continue the story. Because it needs to, especially now. It needs to. This is what G1 fans have been waiting for, and I've been trying to tell one of my friends this because he's very stubborn. He hates everything live action because they rubbed him the wrong way. And I'm trying to tell him, I'm trying to convince him, go see this one. This one is more true to Generation 1 than any other one. And that's not hyperbole. That's a matter of fact. I love this movie. And I will do a spoiler review about it, hopefully this month, within a month. But holy crap, I mean, Spider-Man last week, Transformers this week, and The Flash next week. I'm stuck. And speaking of stuck, I said I was going to make this podcast, a half hour? We're already at 28 minutes long. So this might go over just a little bit, but I'm going to keep this one at least to 40 minutes. So let's get into the last bit of thing. The last thing in the Geek Out. And this one is unconventional to some, but not to me. It's crazy because as I take a sip of my liquid gold, I want to talk to you about stuff that's been happening recently, this past week, as a matter of fact, in regards to the UFO community. Now, I'm not a part of the UFO community, but I love the idea of the UFO community. I've been a UFO fanatic since I was a kid. I've never signed up for newsletters. I've never gotten into, website forums or message boards. None of that shit. Just, it's a personal preference of mine. I love it. I love the idea of aliens. I mean, maybe it's science fiction movies that, threw it in my head. I'm looking at you, Star Wars, Star Trek, all of those movies back in the days. I don't know. Close Encounters of the Third Kind? Oh, yeah. But I've always been a fanatic about the idea of UFOs and aliens and life on other planets. Because honestly, I mean, religion aside, how could we be the only thing in the entire infinite vastness of the universe? It's impossible to believe that. It's impossible to believe that. At least for me, it is. So I was always curious. And granted, oh, where's the proof? Where's the proof? I get it. But there is proof. I mean, there's proof if you believe it. The Roswell incident. Are you going to believe it, or are you going to believe what you've been told? The first thing that came out of that was it was UFO. It was an unidentified flying object. And then what? They went on record and tried to freaking retcon their own story like 5 times. So if that's not fucking head-scratching enough, what are we talking about? And that was back in the 40s, right? 40s. I think it was the 40s. Yeah, Roswell's in the 40s. But recently, there's been a whistleblower this week, talking about the United States government has alien craft, legit out of this world, not from this world, craft. And they've got several of them, and they've had them from some time. And it's caused a Cold War. This is not what caused the Cold War, but like a secret Cold War, if you will, And I'm sitting here and I'm just like, this is insanity. I love it. But who's going to believe it, right? Like, honestly, do we take it at face value? Do we go about our business like, our daily business as usual? Is this, what do they call it? Water cooler conversation topics? Because I think it would be. Now, the people I work with, they don't believe in none of this stuff. So it falls upon deaf ears. So I just talk to myself, basically. But I sit there and I watch these things on my break. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, this whole week, I'm like, what's going on? But then something happened this week here. In my home state right now of Nevada. Right here in my home city of Las Vegas. Where I have been now for 10 years and almost 1 month. And there was a news story that broke out on our CBS affiliate out here that happened on May 1st. Apparently, a UFO crash landed in somebody's backyard up in northern Vegas, northwest Vegas. I don't know, but up north, farther from where I'm at, right? Like, I'm closer to the California border. Like, I am like 35 minutes, 40 minutes from the California border. So I'm pretty much down South Vegas. But apparently, again, a UFO crashed in somebody's yard. They called the police and was describing what they were seeing to the dispatcher, the operator. And what was even crazier was the time that call came in, there was an officer out in the streets with his camera on, right? His chest cam on. And he caught something. Again, he was just on some, like, I don't know what it was, whether it was a random traffic stop or whatever the case may have been, but he was out in the street talking to somebody, and you see an object falling from the sky. It lit up sky. Now it looks like a typical meteorite that usually comes crashing down. Like everybody's seen them before. Like a shooting star, falling star. But this one was coming down, and it was coming down. It wasn't shooting across the sky. This thing came down. It lit up the sky. It was like blue, lit up the sky, and just it went down. Now, that was caught on a police body cam around the same time that this kid, or a little before that, this kid was calling up. These people calling up and saying, "Yo, there's some 8 to 10 foot thing in my backyard. It's got big eyes and a big mouth, and it's not human." This is crazy, especially for a UFO enthusiast. Get it out, G1. Come on, man. What are you doing? Mincing words. This is crazy, especially for a UFO enthusiast like myself. Now, I'm not going to run up to North Vegas and try to find out where this person lived so I can interview him. That's not my bag, man. I don't do that. I leave it to other people, and I'll watch it on YouTube, all the news. That's what I like. That's what I listen. I film stuff. It's on this channel. All you got to do is go back about 6 years. You can go back 6 years. Just find it. You'll see it. I've got 3 things up. I filmed these objects in my old apartment before we bought this house. I filmed these objects that were orbs. And they were popping up on one side of the strip. Then they disappear and then they pop up miles away on the other side. Now, miles away is like if you were driving that strip. But from my window, you can see the entire strip and where they were popping up. So they were popping up over the Rio. They would disappear and then they would pop up over the South Point. The South Point's not on the strip. The Rio is like right off of the strip. The South Point is nowhere near the strip. It's closer to where I live. And I don't live by the strip. So it was crazy, but it's all there. If you guys want to go check it out, go look six years back. Just pardon, listen, the camera's a little shaky. All right. My hands, they shake. I'm sorry. You hear me talking, you hear the kid talking, my kid was young. Like, just ignore all that. Pay attention to the orbs in the sky. Tell me what you think. I've caught that here in Vegas. I saw that. I got that on film. My very first trip out to Vegas, was for my wife's birthday years ago, before we moved out here. Came out here, stayed at the Luxor Hotel. I got on camera, I swear to God, I woke up you know what they say, like if you go looking for something, you're going to find it because you want to find it? Right. So I would make anything look like, in my eyes, anything I would believe would be a UFO. But one morning I woke up, I got out of bed, I was looking at the mountains and I saw something flying across the mountains. It was no jet. It was silver and orb-like. And this thing was moving. And I just so happened to have my camera on hand and I filmed that shit. I filmed it. It's on my mini DV and I mean, like, even today, I'm not technologically sound. I should be, but I'm not. But I have the tape, and I pray to the Lord up above, or Godzilla himself, that the tape still works if I find the mini DV player to plop it in and put it on the damn internet. I'll put it out there. I got it. And all you hear me goes, I've got it. I got a UFO. I was singing. I was so ecstatic. I think it was the day after my wife's birthday or 2 days after my wife's birthday while we were still in Vegas. But I got it. When I first bought this house, I don't have this on tape, but this is a true story. When I first bought this house, my parents had come down. They were here. They were still living in New York, but they were here visiting. They knew we were buying a house. They came down. Me and my father, we were up on my back balcony, right? It's at night. We're bullshitting. He's telling me all, he's basically running the spiel, the father to son, yeah, I'm proud of you, you got a house, blah, 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 blah. Even though the wife got the house, I was broke at the time. I digress. And we're standing there, we're talking, but we're looking off out the back, out the distance, it's dark. And we just see like a shooting star. That's what we thought. Little fucking shooting star thing, but it got closer and closer and closer and then curved. It literally, like a curveball, turned. As it was coming a certain way, it just curved and turned. It turned to the right. Like it was coming down and like it turned to the right. Our right. It turned to, like the way we were looking, it turned to our right. And then just disappeared. Literally. Like it was on fire. I kid you not. Like this thing, and it could have been a space rock. It could have been space debris because it did. It looked like it was on fire. It wasn't giant, but it was noticeable. We saw it. It was like somebody put a bird on fire and it was like a pigeon was on fire and it was flying from space. And as it came closer to us, it just fizzled out. But it was insane. We were like, holy shit, you see that? I was like, wow, yeah, I saw that. It was insane. So like, I know stuff happens out here, right? I mean, frick, Area 51's up, up the block, if you will, hypothetically speaking. But yeah, no, this thing with the UFO in Vegas, with somebody claiming they seen aliens, and I know the number one question is, with today's day and age, Everybody got a cell phone. Everybody got an HD camera in their pocket. How come we don't have visual proof? I'm with y'all. Where is it? I don't go on TikTok. I don't do none of that. I don't have Twitter. I don't do none of that stuff. So I don't know if that was a thing. What I can say though is, you don't think they're listening? You don't think they're listening? These people called the cops and was like, there are 8 to 10 foot creatures in our backyard right now. In our backyard. Big eyes, big mouths. We need someone here. You don't think someone's listening to that? You don't think somebody was knocking on their door 5 minutes later, them thinking it was the cops? You don't think so? I don't know. This happened on May 1st. This is June 9th. And this story just came out this week. So for a whole month, it's been radio silence. Nobody knew about this up until this week. A whole month. I'm just saying, I watched a lot of X-Files, and I agree with my man Mulder. Truth is out there. Truth is out there. Uh-oh. My phone just dinged. Let me see, because that might be one of my brothers in the Transformer community. Let's see what he says. It is. Oh, look at this. My brother Steven from my Transformers community. He writes, he just came out the theater, in all caps, till all are one. Well, that's exactly what I've been saying since I've seen that movie. And I'm happy. I'm happy that he wrote that, because that means he liked Transformers Rise of the Beast. And he's one of my Transformer brothers. He's one of my Transformer brothers. So with him writing that can convince my other Transformer brother to go see this movie, because he knows the deal. We know the time. Speaking of the time, I have run out of time. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, go see it. It's a freaking fantastic movie, best sequel. Transformers Rise of the Beast, if you're an old school Transformers purist like I am, go see this. I implore you. It is so worth it. It is so dope. Even if you're not a Transformers purist like I am, you'll have fun with this movie. And the UFOs in Las Vegas. Are you kidding me? If they're here, they might be there. They might be everywhere. Who knows what's coming down the pike? I don't. But I'll tell you what, I'll sure as hell be here to talk about it when we see stuff. That'll do it for this episode of the Geek Out, ladies and gentlemen. I am G1, and I am out of here. Peace.